Thank you, Shubham. Hi, everyone. Really nice to meet you all, guys. So we are here for 25 minutes to talk about how companies are leveraging APIs through NoCode. At least I'm going to give you one example of how one did. So first, let's introduce myself. Nice to meet you. I'm Amandine. I'm a designer, and I come from Nantes. And basically what you need to remind is that I'm a muggle. I don't code. I'm not a developer. I don't know how to read it, to write it. I don't know how to use it. So I just told you I'm a designer, but I might not be the kind of designer you're used to. Most of the time in tech, we are used to designer building interface, application, product, and everything. I'm not this kind of designer. I do service design. So what I'm doing here, why am I here at an API conference? You are allowed to ask yourself. I mean, I'm kind of wondering myself. So the story began 3 years ago. I got hired to this organization called APIscene. It's based in Nantes. And it's a network that manages a network of 300 companies in tech. We also had a co-working place and organized a lot of events from 10 people to 12,000. And back then we were 12 to do that, to achieve the whole thing. So this is the group of muggles I was working with as a designer. The whole point was to improve every user experience we had in the organization. So I worked with them to help them improve their user experience. And I had my own user. I mean, they were my user. The organization was the user experience I was here to build. So the first idea I had to make things better was to start with process. And the first time I said out loud, process, they all looked at me like, why? No, we don't want that. There's no way we do process. We are not this kind of place, you know? In their mind, they thought of that. They thought that's what I wanted to do to them. And I was like, no, don't worry. That's not the idea. The idea is that I'm going to put boxes in front of you, small one or bigger one, and I'm just going to ask you to fill them with your information, your data, and what you gather every day. And I'm going to ask everyone to do that as well. So you're going to have a lot of boxes filled with information that you can take stuff out of. And then we can share all together something intelligent to do together. So this is just a metaphor. It can be hard to understand. I'm just going to show you an example of what I did concretely in everyday life. Here is Lila. She worked at the desk, the front desk of the office. So every day she just had delivery guys, appointments coming all the time, and for the coworker, basically. So the easy thing to do is just to call them to let them know something is waiting for them at the front desk. But to call them, she basically needs Raphael information, the number of the coworker that back then were only in his phone. And Lila had no access to the phone, so she did not have access to the data she needed. That's where I came. This situation didn't work. How can we make it work? What kind of new process can we put in between the both of them to work well? The first easy thing was just to put a data table in between with all the numbers. But then we added a little bonus. We connected it with Aircall, which is a phone services for companies. And then Lila didn't even have to go inside the table to get the data. It was already on the phone system. So she could just call them right away, and she always was up to date with the information she needed to work well. So basically, I was here to do those kind of stuff. That might sound boring, but I did enjoy it a lot. So to do that, we use those two tools that you might know of. They are really popular. The first one, Airtable, is basically a very user-friendly database that allows you to do a lot of stuff with data. The main thing is all the view you can have and the hidden fields and everything that just basically allowed us to gather the same kind of data at the same place, but to show them differently depending of who needed what for their work. And the next step was also to have everyone working on their own process. Like the NoCode tools, this one at least, could allow you to have a common ground system for everyone, but also everyone had their personal view that worked with their own logic and what they needed. So this can look messy somehow, but no one saw like everyone else's view. So it was kind of lighter to use every day. But everyone had something personal made for themselves by themselves. So that was the first step. The second one, like Airtable was all the boxes I showed you before. Now, the idea was to connect all the boxes as well, so they don't have to fill two boxes with the same information. So I started to use Zapier and started to try to automate boring stuff, like visuals. We did create a lot of visual every day, so we did it. And then transactional emails, and we kept going and kept going. I really enjoyed that. Like, what you see is what you get stuff, and everything building really fast and working well, and everyone happy about it. So I started to talk around me about it, about the achievement we had and how happy I was. And then someday someone was like, oh, that's really nice. You do no code, like you program stuff. That's really cool. I was like, no, I just use a software online and I do stuff, and that's really nice. It's not programmation. Since I did studies in design, I knew what was the job of developer, so I was like, no, it's not the same. And since I'm also stubborn, but he was as well, we kind of ended up like, let's agree to disagree on the programmation part. But then, a few weeks later, I talked with my friend Nicolas, which is a developer and also a teacher. And he was really interested about what I was doing. He wanted to see the backstage of it, so I showed him. And he was like, wow, that's cool. Maybe one day you're going to be a developer as well. I mean, you're already doing programmation. I was like, no, that's not programmation. You cannot say that. I was like, oh, yeah, I'm saying it. You know, we talk together right now. We are brainstorming about programmation logic. You get it. Like a year ago, you didn't get it. And right now, you do. So this is programmation. You just don't write code. But the achievement is the same. So I kind of started to think about it. And I was hired to be a designer. But at that time, I was not doing the work of a designer anymore. I was just there, like trying to manage and to keep up with all the tools we had, and we started to connect. I kind of felt like I was role-playing as a developer, or maybe just a DevOps somehow, like running after everyone leaking data in the wrong way or stuff like that. So I kind of started to accept that what we did was not like childish stuff. It was just great and working well. And one day, as I kept like going into it, I ended up on this page, like basic page that everyone here understands. But back then, that's how it looked for me. I couldn't get a thing. It was coding stuff, writing on the page and everything. I just got scared and was like, no, too much. I'm not there yet, at least. And this is not no code anymore, so I cannot do it. But then, as I was trying to do more automatization, those kind of pages kept popping all the time. And at the same time, in the community, people were starting to talk about API and to do it, to work with them. So I was like, okay, they did it, they work with them, I can at least give it a try. So I went back on this page, and you have to know that I'm not patient for learning. Like, I have no patience for that. So I kind of took a shortcut and went to see my developer friends, like, okay, I need to know how to do it. Like, can you teach me? Can you show me at least? They started to show me. And then I tried just to observe, to replicate the same thing, and then to switch, to do some change in the variables, to try to push data or to get them. I tried different stuff. And then, at some point, what was Mandarin for me until now became English. Like, not my native language where I feel comfortable, but at least something I can read and I can use. So I started to use them with simple scenarios. This is a basic one that just optimized images for our website. Then I did more complicated one. This is for the Web Today conference, for instance, to manage all the files, all the presentations and everything. And one day, I became a pain in the ass to one of my colleagues. He was managing the Wi-Fi at the place, and he was doing the whole thing on a local server. And I was like, yeah, but I need to give like 20 tickets of Wi-Fi per day to people. There's no way we are doing that by hand. I want to automate that. I need access to your local server with my online tool. Yeah, it took a lot of weeks. We had some time before the moving, so we were fine. But I was a big pain in his ass. And somehow one day, he ended up with me on this interface, building it, and we worked it. It took us a lot of time, a lot of try, but in the end, we kind of managed for him to open to me the server and for me to go there to get information. So that was kind of an achievement, you know, to go this far into API utilization. And remember, I'm still a muggle. Like, I'm still not a coder, and today I'm still not. So for me to be able to achieve that was really great. What could we do after that? Like, what else is there to do? Oh, sorry, I forgot this one, it was a nice one. I went too fast. So a new world opened to us with APIs, since we were able to use them. Okay, could we, for instance, build our own APIs with NoCode? I don't know, we can try at least, like, why not? We have done it already a lot. So let's take, for example, the job board. It was one of the services we provided for our members. By the time we launched the service, we did not have that much information in it, like not that much job offers. So we contacted some national job boards that had some of our members' offers and asked them if we could connect to their services to get them, like to scrap them. So they opened access for us to their API, and we are able to take them. Nothing new from now, like that's what we used to do before as well. But someday, Nicolas, if you remember from before, he was a teacher at Le Wagon, and he saw all my offers and everything, and just came to me like, hey, I would like to be able to take them, to share them with my students. Do you think we can do that? And I was like, yeah, of course, like it's nice, it's more visibility for us. So let's do that. He was doing NoCode, so it was quite easy. He just started to like connect to my webbook, and then we were able to share those information. Is it an API though? I'm not so sure. Like, from the CNIL, the definition is that an API is an interface that allows to connect software or services. It was, but was what we did the API? I think the API was mostly the tools themselves. So we are not there yet. But one day we started to work on this project, un job à Nantes, and it was a program made in collaboration with Nantes Saint-Nazaire Développement. And they also had a job board, but not one dedicated to tech, like us. They had a more generic one. And they wanted us to share the data. So I was like, yeah, sure, we already did. So you can just grab them with, you know, with NoCode, it's quite easy. And they were like, oh, but no, we don't do NoCode, you know? Like, we don't do that. We have a traditional agency with coders. They do all the work. We don't do nothing. I was like, okay. So I need to figure out a way to share with developers that I'm never gonna meet those information and to have them to be happy about it and okay with that. We needed to find a solution. So right now, we need this kind of API system. I started to look at how did I work with developers before, because we have websites as well that are with code. So I just check what I did with my own developers. And I did this actually. I did a base on Airtable that we called pivot table. It looked like that. I can show you that quite easily. There is no private information, like all of this is public. You can find them in our website. But this is what we shared with the developers. They had no access to personal data, confidential one. They only had access to the public one with no security issues or of any kind. So if I did it with them, it was already like kind of a way to share internally information from our tool. Why not try to do something like that? So the same question again, can we do that for an external use purpose? We did this, it's quite simple. It has like 6 fields only. And we shared them to the developer, like we just sent an email with the access and everything, and we're like waiting, what's gonna happen? How are they gonna react? Are they gonna be able to use it or not? And we just had to wait like 1 day. Next day, we just received an email, like, okay, you should go on the website, it's done. Like in 1 day. It was already online. Here you can see the job offer, and half of it are from our website, our system. They didn't say a thing. Like everything was okay for the developers. They had access to all the data. It was easy, and they used the Airtable API, like that, the real one. But somehow the way we used this base was a bit like an API in the service way. So we were kind of happy about achieving that, and somehow we felt like we could do a lot. So we ended up being this team of muggles, happy to play with big boys' toys, like the APIs, and still we remained muggles until the end, but we were able to work with developers to make things easy for them, but still, we had no money to pay for the development of all we did with NoCode. And without NoCode, we would never have done all of that and even dare to think of doing all of that. So that was our journey. I would be happy if you have any question to talk about it with you all. But if you have any question about La Cantine, I'm not going to be able to answer, because since then, I kind of went deeper into NoCode since, just quickly, I joined Ottho a few months ago, and it's a NoCode school. So if you have any question about training in NoCode, we have e-learning courses, on-demand mentors, bootcamps, and everything. So this kind of subject, I can talk with you like quite easily, and I would be happy to. And you can find myself like in LinkedIn and add me. I would like be happy to keep in touch with you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Do we have questions for Amandine on how she did it at La Cantine? Yes, there is a... Okay, so the mic is not coming, so maybe we can start with Joyce first.
Good. I could practice holding the mic. My question was, so you mentioned, what was the hardest thing for you? Was it like the Slack API reading like Mandarin to start with? Or is it like collaboration with teams and kind of selling no code to developers, or something else altogether?
I think the hardest part was the team, because since they had access to the whole thing, they did it like in their own personal way and started to do a lot of like not good stuff. So I had to start being the police, you know, inside the company and run after each other to stop them doing stuff. And also I needed them, like, for instance, the example I gave with the phone number, my colleagues kind of still didn't fill the table. So he was still a pain in the ass for the other one because he did not give the access. So I had to put system in place, like for him, for instance, if there were no phone number to a coworker, he could not create the Wi-Fi password for the coworker. And when you have a coworker with no Wi-Fi in your office, I mean, you do what you have to do to give him the Wi-Fi access. So I started to have to do those kind of boring, almost dark pattern stuff for my colleagues to have them like do the minimum we needed to work together.
Do we have... there was another one, yes.
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation. It was really interesting and super clear also. And as I do the same kind of jobs, I really identify myself, so it's really nice. And it's good to see that even things that for others can seem simple can actually be complicated, and to have another look on it. It's really interesting. And I would be super curious to know what's the name of your job now that you are doing in Ottho?
Oh, yeah. So in Ottho, I'm head of community. Yeah.
Which is interesting because not really representative of what you're doing every day. Like now you're in the tools, right? Like
Oh, yeah. Well, before I used to be a muggle, but a weird one that talks weirdly and can talk with the non-muggles one. And now in my everyday life job, and everyone around me speaks the same language as me. So that's kind of weird. I kind of got used to it already, but I didn't had that before.
amazing. All right, let's give a big round of applause for the talk. It was amazing. Thank you very much.